Once upon a time, Rudolph, it appears that the nose.
It's flashing.
If you say even Rudolph, if you even say Roo, if you say rude.
So have you kids heard the story about the time when Cupid tried to bite Santa?
No.
What about the time when Rudolph's nose turned into a laser beam?
No.
Do you want to hear them?
Yes.
All right. So once upon a time, it was the night before Christmas. The once upon a time I'm referring to was quite a while ago, back before Rudolph was an accepted part of the team, back to when the other reindeer were a bit mean to poor old Rudolph, teasing him and not including him in their reindeer games. Rudolph spent most of his days sweeping and cleaning out the stalls or the stables, wrapping presents, and dreaming that one day he would be invited to be part of the sleigh delivery team. On occasions, Rudolph would share his dreams with the other reindeer. They thought it was funny. They all doubted that Rudolph had what it took. And as I said, this was back before Rudolph had figured out his awesome little light bulb nose trick. And they liked to be mean to Rudolph, like hiding his food and putting sharp, pointy toys like Lego in his bed.
Rudolph was born with that nose. He was born as soon as he was born, his nose lit up.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this true?
It is true.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think he just had a normal old nose.
No, he did not. If you watched the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie, you would have found that out.
Well, anyway, back to the night in question. It was the night before Christmas, around 5 p.m. to be precise, and the reindeer were all geared up for 3 hours of party before lights out at 8 o'clock. Dance party, maybe some games, bit of party food, all kinds of cool things that reindeers like to do. The reindeer party was just about to start when disaster struck. You see, the power went out. There was no electricity. Oh no, the reindeer room was now completely dark. No more party. Santa came in and said, while it was disappointing the power had gone out, well, the reindeer, they could use the opportunity to get some extra sleep. Santa and Mrs. Claus were cheering because they had already got into their pajamas and they liked sleeping. Mrs. Claus didn't even wait for Santa. She was already sound asleep. And so the reindeers, well, they hopped into their reindeer beds and they lay quietly in the dark. Prepare yourselves. This is where the story starts to pick up a little bit of pace. Are you guys ready for it?
Yes.
All right, let's see what happens. All the reindeer hopped into bed. They were very disappointed, definitely a little mad. Rudolph lay in bed, wishing he could do something, anything, to help his team to perk up. Sometimes people, when they get an idea, describe it as a light bulb or a light lighting up in their head. Well, that's kind of what happened to Rudolph. He was lying in bed, putting all of his brain power to the task of finding a solution to this problem. All his body, all his concentration, his focus was to find a way. And then it happened. Pop! His tail was alight. Well, that's no good, he thought. I can only see where I've been, not where I'm going. Then he tried again. And then pop. Then his foot was alight. Well, that's no good either. Now I can only see what's on the ground. At least I won't step in any chewing gum, he thought, but it's no good for anything else. He tried again, he shut his eyes and he made like a strange kind of thinking sound to them. And then pop, his nose lit up. Suddenly the room was filled with a beautiful night glow. Rudolph could see the other reindeers lying in their beds. It was amazing. They were all in awe of what they were seeing. Holy moly, how'd you do that? Said Cupid. Yeah, tell us how to do that, please, Rudolph, said one of the other reindeers. Rudolph tried his best, but he couldn't explain it. Some of the other reindeer tried, but they couldn't make their noses light up. One of the reindeer, Boris, tried holding his breath and squeezing really tight. His head went bright red and a little fart popped out. Oh dear. And now it was time to party because the room was alight. They could see what they were doing. The reindeer were quickly out of beds. There was no electricity, so no music, but the reindeer were good to go. They were dancing all over the place. They were singing. They were wrestling. They were jumping on their beds. They were making such a noise that they could be heard all the way down the street. And soon their bedroom door burst open. It was Santa. All the reindeer jumped straight back into bed and pretended to be asleep. "What's with all the noise?" asked Santa. "And will someone turn that darned light off?" Everyone laughed. Santa had said a naughty word. "And where is that light coming from anyway?" asked Santa. Rudolph spoke up. It's coming from my my nose," said Rudolph. Santa couldn't believe his eyes. "So it is," he said. "And I don't know how to turn it off," said Rudolph. Rudolph tried wishing it off, no such luck. Then he tried blinking his eyes up and down like a light switch. Nope, his nose was still alight. And there was nothing that Rudolph could do. All of the other reindeer hopped out of bed and started making some suggestions. Vixen came over and gave his red honker a big squeeze. "Ouch," said Rudolph. "That hurt, and it wasn't very nice." And his light was still on anyway. Then Cupid came over and said maybe I should press it in, kind of like a button, and that might switch it off. So he came over and he pressed it kind of like a button. "Ouch, again," said Rudolph. It didn't work very well either, did it? And then came Donna. Once she'd seen Santa giving the lawnmower a kick and saying some rude words when it wouldn't start. And once Mrs. Claus was using the photocopier to print out some party invitations, and there was a paper jam, and so it stopped working, and she gave it a big old kick with her right foot, and then it started straight up. And so Donna headed over towards Rudolph. Rudolph could tell what Donna was thinking, and he said, "You'd better not." But Donna went ahead and did it, and she gave Rudolph a big old kick right in his nose with her reindeer foot. A sea of rage consumed Rudolph. How dare they, he thought. All the years had been picked on bubbled to the surface. He decided he'd take it no more. At first it was just a little squirt, a short pew, as a laser beam that shot out across the room at Donna. It went straight between her antlers. "Sorry about that, that's never happened before," said Rudolph. But being overcome with rage, his nose was now in overdrive and had turned into both a laser beam, which shot out light across the room, singeing everything in its path, and also making some cool little noises. Like, what sort of laser beam noises do you think it'd make? Rudolph was up on 2 feet, neighing and bucking like a horse, chasing the other reindeer around the room, who were now hiding behind cupboards and under their beds, and he was shooting laser beams everywhere. Donna was running for cover when one of Rudolph's laser beams burnt some of the fluff on her bottom. Santa was watching and trying his best not to laugh.
Santa know they were picking on her.
Yeah. See, Santa loved his reindeer, but, like you said, he knew they'd also been a little bit mean to poor old Rudolph over the years. "All right, that's enough now, Rudolph. See if you can get that honker of yours under control," he said to him. Well, Rudolph, who had been practicing his mindfulness, he practiced some of the slow breathing exercises, and sure enough, the laser beams were now no longer flashing all over the place. Even his nose switched off. "You beauty," he thought. He gave all the other reindeer a stern look. They were all now scared of Rudolph and his newfound superpowers. And right, everyone, back in bed, said Santa. That's more than enough excitement for one night. Rudolph hopped back into bed, closed his eyes and went to sleep, excited about everything which lay ahead tomorrow on Christmas Eve. And at the same moment, the power came back on. Santa and the other reindeers knew. Santa knew that the reindeer knew, and the reindeer knew that Santa knew that the reindeer knew. Santa knew what the reindeer were thinking. The power's come back on. What do you think the reindeer want to do? Party? Even though it's Christmas Eve tomorrow? No. What do you think they should do? Should they party or go to sleep?
Go to sleep.
What about you? Do you think you should party or go to sleep? Yes, it was 8 o'clock. It was time for sleep. At least if they knew it was good for them. But they didn't really know it was good for them. The next morning, Rudolph was awake at 7 a.m. He felt great. 11 hours sleep. His nose was back under control. He put on his gym gear, some sweatbands, his sneakers, and he went to the gym, cranked out a lightly paced 5 kilometres on the treadmill, did some push-ups, and finished with a light stretch. He spent some time in front of the mirror and he figured out his light bulb nose. On, off. Laser beam on. Aim for that tree branch over there. Zzz. Chase that rat away. Zzz. Cool. All looking good. But when he went back to his room, the other reindeer were all asleep. After Rudolph had nodded off the night before, the other reindeer couldn't help themselves. They thought, let's just have a little play on Fortnite. And that little play turned into 9 hours, 5 a.m. And they were eating pizza and junk food before they went to bed. And when they went to bed, the sun was just coming up. Eek, not good news. And so when Rudolph walked in and started making noise, they woke up feeling tired and cranky and sick. And they refused to get out of bed. Santa came in and he tried everything. I'll count to 10. If you guys don't get out of bed, terrible things are going to happen. And Santa counted to 10, but when he did count to 10, nothing happened. Bugger, said Santa. They've called my bluff. I need to up the ante. Well, if you little rascals don't get out, I'm going to ground you. No TV for 1 month. The reindeer laughed. We don't even watch TV, they thought. Silly old Santa. They don't know we spend all our time on our phones these days. That grounding doesn't mean anything. But then something bad happened. Santa went over to Cupid's bed and tried shaking him, and then he pulled the covers off Cupid. And you know what happened then? Cupid took a bite at Santa. Naughty little reindeer. He tried to have a nip, and Santa said, "Hey, you cut that out. Don't you bite
Why
me."
did you bite him?
Well, because he was tired and cranky and feeling a bit sick. He had a little nip.
Where on it?
On his arm. And then Santa said, "You cheeky little reindeer."
On his thigh,
And he dragged the reindeer. He said, "Right, you're out. You're going straight to the stables, Cupid." And he put him in the little stables at the back. And as he was putting out there, Cupid was watching. He had a little peep back through the window. He saw Santa filling out the naughty list. Uh-oh. And he saw the letters C, U, and Cupid was hoping, I hope it's someone else's name starts with C and U. Hope it's not a P that's next. And then sure enough, P, I, D, Cupid, naughty list. Rats. So then that was Cupid. The rest of the reindeer, Santa said, rats. Rats, drats. And then
Rats mean
grats. I'm not sure what grats means. Rats means, it's a word to say bugger.
it's an animal.
A rat is an animal. You know, sometimes words have two meanings, multiple meanings. Rats, like saying poop.
Yeah.
Poop has multiple meanings. Poop could mean poop, or it could mean, oh, poop. Something bad just happened. Anyway, Santa went back to the other reindeer and said, right, if you little rascals don't get out of bed, I'm going to leave without you. Of course, none of them believed him. Santa had never left without him before, and the reindeer thought, well, we are kind of the greatest reindeers in the whole world. There's no way Santa's going to leave without us. No way in the world. Which is why it came as quite the shock to them all when they saw Rudolph and Santa taking off from the North Pole runway with the sleigh full of presents. Santa could see them looking out their windows as he lifted off, and he gave them a little wave and hoped that old Laser Beam Rudolf would get them through the night and make sure that all the presents got delivered to the good boys and girls all over the world. Rudolph was so excited he'd strapped himself into the sleigh hours before. He was kind of glad the others weren't there. He got to be a very big part of Christmas and see the magic of this most special night all to himself with Santa. By the end of the night, Rudolph was completely wrecked. His nose was flashing on and off, but his smile was ear to ear. The other reindeer came out to greet him, except for Cupid. Rudolph couldn't wait to tell them all about it, about how his favourite time was coming in to land on the roofs and seeing Santa take toys to each of the houses, and how because there was only one reindeer, and how Santa would bring food and treats and Rudolph got to gobble them up all by himself. His favourite treats were apples and carrots when Santa was watching, and marshmallows and cake and biscuits when Santa was distracted putting on his seatbelt. Rudolph loved seeing the Christmas lights up and down the street, the trees shining bright through the windows, and getting to practice using his little laser blasting nose whenever he was flying high above the clouds and it was far away enough from houses so he wouldn't be seen. It was the best night ever. The other reindeer were so proud of Rudolph, and they were sorry for how they'd treated him over the years. They told him they were sorry, and they also apologized to Santa. Rudolph had set a good example for the others. They all looked forward to next Christmas very much, and Rudolph spent the next 12 months practicing his laser beaming.
Why do you need to practice laser beam?
Well, just so he'd be even better and better, just in case he needed to use his laser beam for things like chopping up wood. So poor old Cupid, he was still in the naughty corner. As we said before, his name was on the naughty list. So that Christmas, the next day, all he got was a lump of coal, and Santa also got him a muzzle to put on. You know when doggies get a bit bitey, they have to walk around with muzzles on? Well, that's what Cupid had to spend the next 3 weeks wearing, a muzzle, because Santa did not want to get bitten by him again. Sorry, Cupid.
What's a muzzle?
A muzzle is something you put over your mouth, which means your teeth can't get out.
What colour is that?
It's like wire. It's like a little...
Then how will they eat?
Well, they take it off to eat. It's just when they're walking around. So whenever he wasn't eating, Santa put his muzzle on until Cupid promised to behave himself. And that's what happened. There'd never been a better behaved reindeer than Cupid for the next 12 months. Because that Christmas he was really hoping for an Xbox, and he got a muzzle and a lump of coal. So he had to be the most well-behaved reindeer for the next 12 months. And next year, on the night before Christmas, Cupid was in bed asleep at 5 o'clock. He needed to make sure he woke up with plenty of time and plenty of energy, and he didn't want to be tired and cranky and sick when he woke up.
When did Rudolph go to sleep?
Well, he was asleep by 8 o'clock, except sometimes when Rudolph was snoring, his little honker would start lighting up and turning on and off again.
But Rudolph was asleep at 5.
He was
At
early.
1.
1 o'clock. He was even earlier to sleep. Do you know what else? The other good thing about Rudolph's nose was, because it was so dark in the North Pole at night time, sometimes the reindeer would get a little bit scared. So what Rudolph would do sometimes for the other reindeer is he'd just have his little nose just light up just a little bit. So it's just like a little night light. Just to make sure that the other reindeer have a little bit of light to shine in the room. And they could go to sleep with the nice, gentle, red light shining in the room. And they'd sleep soundly in their beds, knowing they had a beautiful day ahead tomorrow.